Hello, friends, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Fort Worth Roots. You can find Fort Worth Roots on all of your favorite streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and many more. And now we have a morning show. You can catch us every morning. It releases at 8 a.m. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We start recording at 7 a.m., and we get that bad boy out to you as quick as possible. You can get it first at fortworthroots.com, and then as your individual streaming services start to repopulate their catalog, we'll pop up at their prerogative later on in the day, so maybe 9, 10 o'clock. But you can get it first, fortworthroots.com, available at 8 a.m. every morning, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we're really excited. It's a whole new format. It's a different game entirely, so we're hoping that you get to check that out. It's all focused on news, current events, shows that are happening in the area, and we get call-ins from people just like you, but also 501c, event promoters, and all sorts of people doing great things. Fort Worth Fire Department has already been on, and some other names that you might recognize. Go check that out. It's just like the regular podcast. You can go to your streaming service, just type in Fort Worth Roots, and it pops up. It's going to be labeled by the date. We put the date up front, and it says morning show. Easy to find. This weekend was great, and I owe all of our vendors, all of our sponsors, all of our volunteers and the staff at Pouring Glory a huge thank you. And also to you, Fort Worth, everybody that came out. I cannot believe the turnout we had. Thank you, each and every one of you. This was a great event. We've been planning it for a year. It marks the end of our music series. We started this thing in March, went all the way through to October, and we had a lot of fun doing it. We're going to do it again next year. We're going to do it bigger and better. The way it works is we pick a different location with a different band once a month and bring that to you all over different spots all over the city. So, and then we will have it terminated. It will conclude the event at the end of the year with one final bash. And I have a couple of promises for you guys. One, we're going to do it a lot shorter. This year it was 10 hours long, and it was just too much. So next year we're going to do 5 hours, but we're going to have 2 stages so that whenever one band's setting up, the other one's breaking down, and we can just keep the party going all day long, keep it inside of a 5-hour window. We're also going to have a dedicated area for family fun, for the kiddos. Now, I don't know exactly what that means. I'm pretty sure, confident that I can say there's at least going to be face painting and a petting zoo. That's where we're at right now, considering a bounce house, but those also sound very dangerous. I don't know. We're going to poll the audience on this and see what the parents have to say about it. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We want to make these things better and better for you guys each and every time, and we got a lot of other cool ideas that we're going to sprinkle in between. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for making this event a success. And it's given me the energy and the motivation that I need to do it bigger and better. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, moving on. Today's episode is an excellent one. We've got Hoang on, who's been at our studio before for the Meet the Artist series that we did. If you've been watching us on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, what we did is amplify it when Seven asked us to bring these artists in and do a little video, 90 seconds maximum, and just ask them some icebreaker questions, get to know the artist a little bit better. So they were really fun. I want to continue to do those because it's a great way to meet the artist in 90 seconds. So, but this is a full episode, so we're honored to have Court in here for a full episode. He performed 2 songs for us on the recording today, which you're going to get here in just a moment. And some really excellent stories that I didn't think we were going to get to dive into. Before we go any further, I need to tell you about our newest sponsor, Hoppin. It's Hoppin, FWTX, on Instagram. And this place is rad, man. You got to go check it out. It's a great event space. If you've got a business party or any kind of other group that needs a space that looks amazing and has lots of options, this is something you need to check out. It's called Hoppin, and it is next to Doc's Records, kind of just north of Target off of 7th Street, tucked away back there by Lockwood Distillery, just next to Doc's Records. So go check this place out. We love these guys for allowing us to do the morning show there through the month of October, and we're really excited. Michael and I believe his wife's name's Holly, they are really nice people. And we're excited to work with them through the month of October. So the way this place works, you have an armband. It's linked to your debit card. You walk up to their tap wall. They got 29 computers on the wall, and each one has 2 taps. You do the math. Anyway, you scan the beer you want. You scan the computer, you touch the beer you want, and then you pour by the ounce, and it only charges you what you get out of it. And they also have food options from surrounding restaurants that will be delivered to you. And I'm trying to remember, I think it's Maple Branch, and they will bring food over in a golf cart. And they're also working on deals with other places around the area. But it is kind of, you can bring your own food, I believe, if you want to, because Michael mentioned that, what is that, Grubhub or DoorDash, whatever you people use. I don't use that stuff. I don't like strangers playing with my food. But anyway, you can do it, and you can have all that right there at Hoppin. There you got a nice little patio area out there and everything you could possibly want. But it's a new business, and I'd love for you guys to give them your support. Michael is a veteran, and Holly, I believe she grew up here in Fort Worth, and just a really nice family. The other folks we need to tell you about is YourDavisteam.com. Jordan Davis and her team successfully sold 2 homes for me in 2 totally different markets, and we straight up would not have a real estate agent on our list of sponsors if they had told us no, because I would always know in the back of my mind that the best agent was still out there. So go check them out for any information. They don't just need to sell you a house or help you buy a new home. They're there to answer any kind of property-related questions. So if you got questions about your taxes, zoning, whatever, they're happy to help you out. It is YourDavisteam.com. All right, let's get into this episode. Thank y'all so much for being here. Hey, don't sleep on this morning show. On your way to work, the reason that we made it 20 minutes long is that it's just supposed to be the pertinent news for your area that you can get. You can take this 20-minute episode, listen to it, and be on your way to work. And by the time you get to the office, you know more about your community and you know what's going on in the area. So that's why we're doing it. And if you are somebody that's putting on events, 501Cs, or a local artist, that could be musician, art vendor, whatever, let us know. Call us, 817-988-1292. And if you just come across a story that has nothing to do with you, and you're like, man, I want that on the morning show, call me. You can either leave a message, you can talk to me in person, and I'll bust out the Tazcam, and we can record right there on the spot. Or you can call in at 7 a.m. and be part of the show. Okay, that's enough talking out of me. Thank y'all so much for being here, and let's start the show. Today with our buddy Hoang. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Recovering. We'll get into that here in a minute. We did Meet the Artists for Amplify 817 last time we were in the studio, and I was really proud of the way that turned out, but you're really good in front of a camera and on the mic, so
thanks, man.
That was all you. We're going to play some tunes for you real quick. I wanted to start asking this question whenever we fire up an interview with somebody that hasn't been on the show before. I saw it in a list of questions that people were asking on another show, and I was like, that's an interesting way to get things going. Is there anything, and this is not politics, is there anything that would surprise people, something that you believe as far as conspiracy theories or woo-woo out there in the universe stuff? Is there something that would surprise people to know about Court?
I don't know how surprising this would be, but I'm like a huge believer in kind of the connectedness of all things, right? So like there's this idea that like we as people have our own kind of like closed internal systems that are not really connected to everything else. And it's easy to say from a sociological standpoint of like, oh, of course we're connected, like we affect each other, we have to help each other out. But I mean, even on like a really basic, like physical, energetic kind of level, when you get down to like, certain types of quantum theory and things like that, like the fact that, all matter is like almost entirely empty space. And that the only thing holding you physically as a body together is basically electromagnetic attraction on the subatomic scale. The fact that you exist in a physical form is truly nothing short of a miracle, but it also, to me at least, it really underlines the reality of a type of energy that kind of connects all of us. In you can call it spiritual energy, or you can call it karmic energy, or you can call it there's more of this electromagnetic energy that we are just now starting to learn kind of how to measure in a quantifiable way, but you can feel it kind of in a weird emotional and or spiritual way, and that's something that I lean really heavily into, is kind of this energy work and this idea of trying to find that feeling of connectedness, because when you feel like you're connected not just to the people you know, but to the earth, to all matter in the universe, then it becomes very humbling, but also like it really takes a lot of pressure off, right? Because it's not like you're this brain running around in this little meat machine that has to like pay taxes and do all that. It's like it's like you're connected to something that is so big and so vast and so miraculous that like, how could you possibly care that much about paying your taxes, or whatever it is? It really helps put things in perspective for me. So,
if the IRS is listening, we do not condone Court's opinion on taxes.
No, I'm pretty conservative when it comes to paying.
Well, I love that. Now, have you ever met somebody that was so far off, so despicable, so different than you, that you thought maybe I ought to rethink that whole notion?
It's funny because this kind of belief system, if you want to call it that, like it really does account for that, right? Like, because you can meet someone that is so vastly different from you and that disagrees with you on so many fundamental things, and you can recognize that all of those things are egoic in nature, right? It's like it's their mind that is convincing them that like X, Y, or Z is true, and therefore, everything else that follows, right? And the best thing about this is that it really causes you to call into question your own assumptions, right? The things that you're assuming are true based on how you were raised, or based on the culture you grew up in, based on geographic location, whatever it is. Like, there are so many things that we take for granted, like, how electricity works, or like how fluid dynamics work, or sorry, not to get too scientific, but also, like, what is God, or like, what is right and what is wrong? Like, all of these things. The best advice I ever heard about this was, stop asking yourself if your beliefs or someone else's beliefs are true. Start asking yourself if those beliefs are helpful or useful.
Nice.
Right? Because truly, at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter whether somebody else believes what you believe about, let's say, God. The only thing that matters is, are they good stewards of other people, of themselves, of humanity, of the earth, of the God that they believe in, whatever it is. Like, are they living their life in a way that is in accordance with the greatest good of all of us?
Gratitude and
that
love.
Truly is the only thing that matters, right? Yeah, exactly. And if those are not things that we can, at on a very basic level, agree on, then we're kind of doomed anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think that religion has its place, but just like everything else, where more than 4, 5, 6 humans get together, any kind of organization seems to lead to corruption. So
it's tricky.
But you can still have love and gratitude with or without a religious doctrine to follow.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
And honestly, some of the most amazing like gatherings of humans I've ever seen are concerts, right? Music concerts, right? You bring people
or biker
together,
rallies,
and it's like
seriously,
really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
those are good people, man.
I believe it. That's the thing, is right. You get together and you share this common interest, but it's something that unifies you, right? And when you're together doing this thing that unifies you, you can feel that connection.
Sure.
And when everyone feels it, man, like nothing blisses you out more. Nothing makes you feel more just joy, like pure just happiness.
Yeah.
Than feeling connected to everything around you. It's really wonderful.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try to get you to play at least 2 songs for us.
Okay, cool.
I know it now. Listen, folks. Court just got over being sick, and this is not his 100% vocal range. So y'all better not be passing any judgment on Court today.
I appreciate it.
All right, we got everything up. All right.
I'm going to play a song, actually, just based on what we were just talking about, called You Are Here. And this was commissioned for a woman whose nephew and niece were murdered at the age of 2 and 4. And my kids were like the same age when she asked me to write this song, and I said, I'm going to take a minute and see how this feels. But kind of worked through it, and I decided, okay, I want to write a song that speaks truth to this without necessarily sugarcoating it too much. So this is kind of what I came up with. Let's see.
Darling, you'll be here and then you'll go. You don't even know what you want to know, but you keep asking. Child of mine, will you know your heart from head? After all is done and all is said, daylight is passing. I have been wandering, waiting for something to end, that I might start again. Love of mine, will you come and take my hand? I don't even know how I ought to stand, if not by your side. Darling, oh, this river will ever flow, and with its waters you and I must go, until we arrive. Are you still wondering, where does my suffering end, and where does yours begin? You'll be here and then you'll go.
I feel kind of silly for telling people that you were recovering from being sick, and it might not be that good, because that was beautiful.
I appreciate that. I'm trying to pick songs that
insane.
are lower in my range because, yeah, you heard my falsetto earlier.
Yeah.
It sounds very squeaky.
I don't know that I've caught you live yet out in the world.
I don't think so.
I don't think I have, and I'm so sorry.
You're fine, man. That's life.
But you know
There's
what?
so many amazing musicians in Fort Worth. It's wild.
It's hard to keep up.
It's insane. Yeah.
And then I've got all these things going on, but I've recently cleared up my schedule, and I don't think I've said this publicly yet. I wanted to make a big announcement from the stage this weekend, but I stepped away from my job, and I am full-time Fort Worth Roots now. So
No
you're going to be seeing me
way.
more often out in public. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank
man.
you. But yeah, man. So you were commissioned to do that for a family?
Yeah, for the aunt of these two kiddos.
I bet they came unglued whenever they heard that song.
It was really weird, man. Like I finished the song and I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I should send this because I feel like it's not very. It's comforting in one way, right? Like on a very like kind of cosmic level, but it's not like, you know. I don't know if she was looking for like an ode specifically to these children. And it was like she didn't tell me much about them, right? She was just sort of like, well, these are their nicknames and kind of, you know. I was like, okay, and like I didn't want to get too deep into that because I was like, this is going to be hard enough for me to get through like performing it,
right?
You know, as it is. So I sent it to her and I was like, yeah, like here you go, basically. And she was like, great, I'm going to send this to their mother. And I was like, please don't.
No,
I don't know
it's
if she's
beautiful,
doing,
but I get what you're saying. It's not somewhere over the rainbow, right?
Yeah, and it's not. It's one of those things. I was like, oh, okay. Like you know, even just that one step removal of like being the aunt versus being like
mother,
mom.
Yeah.
And actually, it was the father that did it, and it was a murder suicide. It was a whole like.
Oh my
it was a,
God!
Like man, it's a gruesome story, right? And it's like, yeah, so I did this thinking like, oh, so there's this like degree of separation, right, of like the aunt, but then like she was like, oh, I'm gonna send it to the mom, and I was like, okay, like, can I ask you a favor? Like, don't tell me what she thinks about it. Like, tell her, you know, if it's not helpful in her healing process, then I'm really sorry, basically, you know.
Yeah.
But I have found that like the more people I play it for, that have seen, you know, some kind of loss, like it is a comfort to them, you know. Because it's, and I didn't want to make it too specific, you know, and too personal, and I think that would have been, I don't want to say like an easy way out, you know, because like when you want to pull heartstrings, it's really easy to like, the more specific you can get with your imagery, basically, the more you're going to be able to kind of like transport people there. And I was like, okay, I feel like I don't want to lean too far into that because like it feels insensitive in a way to get too far into it. So I kind of kept it more like high level a little bit. But
well, I think this might be part of an age thing. I get misty-eyed when Theo gets up on stage at an open mic and starts playing love songs and things like that. But I started getting misty-eyed listening to the lyrics for that. And
man, they're like,
it's beautiful,
especially for like men as we get older. I feel like, you know, and like it's like testosterone levels start dropping, you know, and then
not mine.
All of a sudden, like you start becoming a little bit less of an asshole than you were when you were like in your 20s. You were, you know, like because you're not so obsessed with this idea of like what masculinity is, right?
Sure.
You can just be yourself because like I don't care if anyone else likes what I'm doing. You know, it's like I'm happily married. I've got 3 kids. Like, I'm like the people that I care about love me no matter what.
Yeah.
Right. So like, who am I trying to impress at this point? You know.
Well, I think some of that has got to be just your journey through life and what it's turned you into. Because
I've
met 80-year-old men that are still complete assholes.
Oh,
you know
that's fair. That is fair. I think it's a cultural thing that like we're allowed to be that way. But I've also heard so many people like my dad, like you know, like he turned 60 and all of a sudden like he's just chill, like
giving
he's
people
great
hugs
with his grandkids, and he's like telling people he loves them and stuff. Like that. I was like, what's going on? And I was like, I think it's like his levels are starting to drop. He's like,
get your tea checked.
but also maybe, you know, like maybe we're educating better. You know, like I definitely feel like, you know, for my part, my wife and I, we both we take the opportunity to like talk to our parents about like, the things that we care about and make sure that you know, like they're, I don't want to say acting right, but like, you know, that they understand kind of like how we want to be raising our kids and like the things that we believe in and stuff like that. And like sometimes, you know, you have disagreements, but you still you can kind of you can talk about it in a way that doesn't have to alienate anyone or make anyone feel like, oh, this person's right and this person's wrong, kind of a thing, you know. Especially when it comes to the kids, it's like I love being able to talk to them and say like, yeah, we believe this, and it's not the same as what, you know, Nana and Pop believe necessarily in this regard, you know, or they have different ideas about what this means and, you know, things like that. And we can kind of get into it without having to say like, yeah, and they're bad people because, you know, because that's no fun. All right, let me play you one more quick one.
All right.
I'm just going to think here. All right, I'm going to try this new song. That other one went okay, so I'm going to try this new one. It's called Hallowed Ground. It just came out actually like a couple of weeks ago, and it's been doing pretty well. People seem to like it, which I'm really grateful for. And I've like finally started writing music that like, I don't want to say it's catchy, but it's like closer to catchy, you know? Because most of the songs I write are, you know. All right.
Stone over stone till it's all been overthrown. The heavens above, is that what you're dreaming of? But all our stars, they will fall down. Fill the earth, make it hallowed ground. All our stars, they will fall down. The first time I if you want to, over the oceans of things in your way. The first time over the stars, and I warn you, only the things that are true will remain. Let's start over again, and I want to, oh, but I can't understand what you say. Come on and on, what a perfect way to go. Lost in the flood, climb higher than your God. But all our sins, they will all drown. Fill the earth, make it hollow ground. And all our sins, they will all drown. Staying for now, if you want to stick around. Stairs to the sky, let a perfect way to die. But all our souls, they will fall down. Fill the earth, make it hallowed ground. And all our souls, they will fall down. Oh.
Beautiful, brother.
Thanks, man.
So I gotta ask you, because every time I look at somebody playing a guitar, this is the most fascinating part for me. How do you hit the strings that you're trying to hit with such accuracy? And I know it just comes as a basic guitar thing that you got to learn how to do, but what is the trick to that? Because I had a friend leave, shout out Joe Savage, left a guitar here for me for a little bit, and I'd try to play on it, and I have absolutely no
fun,
education.
Right? Yeah. I mean, so when I'm finger picking, basically my thumb is going to be the root notes, right? The low notes.
Okay.
So usually first two strings, maybe the third string here. And these are, it's actually upside down, so the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings, right? And then with fingers, it's really easy, right? Because I could be like, oh, well, I need these 3 strings at the bottom here, right? So I can use these 3 fingers, right? And if I need more, then I can use all of them, right? So I know, okay, this one's going to hit these 2, right?
And you're just up
That's
and down,
about as well
up
as I
and
can
down.
explain it, yeah. Well, yeah, there's a little bit of a balance in the hands, right?
And just
when you're
repetition,
strumming, it's
I
one
guess.
thing, but then, yeah, when you're just picking, you just kind of feel like, okay, well, it feels more comfortable to use this finger on this string, so I'll do that most of the time unless I need, I need to use a different finger somewhere else. And basically, yeah, it just becomes muscle memory after a while.
Okie dokie. Had to ask.
Yeah, for sure. Strumming with a pick, it's like a little more complicated, right? Because you really just have to feel exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And that takes a little more practice, I think. Yeah. I would argue. I know plenty of shredders who are like, I can't finger pick to save my life, and I'm like, that's wild, because that's how I feel when I pick up a pick. I'm just like, I can do it.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I have the kind of accuracy and precision that you're talking about.
You're losing some dexterity there.
I need to practice quite a bit before I feel like, yes, I'm always going to hit the right spot.
I've been talking about this since I started hanging out inside the Fort Worth music community and interviewing people, and it's just been in the back of my mind because I don't have time for a hobby right now.
Sure.
I might here real soon now that I've stepped away from the job. But I think I've landed on drums because I narrowed it down over the years. Where should I be? And, I'm late in the game, so I don't think I need to be up front. So I was thinking bass or drums.
Yeah.
And now I've got a drum kit here at the studio, so now it's looking like drums.
Honestly, drums, well, first of all, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Right? Second, the coordination required is, to get to a certain point, especially with like jazz drumming and stuff like that, you do have to have like an insane amount of precision, right?
Right.
But to get started, especially if you're doing more like kind of country, even blues, and then a lot of like rock and roll stuff, you know,
Just
it's
making a little noise.
you're just kind of you don't have to be perfect,
Right.
You know, the rhythm is important, right? But you need that for bass too. I would argue actually your rhythm and timing is more important on bass than it is on drums.
Really?
Wow. Well, with drums, like you can put a click in your ear and you can play along with that,
Right.
And you can do that with bass, but really the bassist has to be following the drummer, right? So like you gotta really lock in together. That's key. Like that's
Yeah.
your rhythm section, bass and drums, right? So locking in together like that is, you know, when you start playing with people over a number of years, you start really falling into that, and then the groove feels so good, you know.
Yeah.
And then you know you play with someone new. Like I had a sub drummer once, a couple of months ago, and he was a tremendous drummer. Like he picked it up like it was no problem, and I was like, "You're a genius," and I love that. And he was like, "Yeah, drums are my first instrument," and he was great. But just the amount of time that we've been playing together, being able to lock in, like it just wasn't quite there yet. You know, it's like all these little tiny things that like felt so natural with my normal drummer. That all of a sudden it was just like, oh, it just feels a little weird, you know, and it's just kind of a funny thing. But then you've got some people who can really just like drop in,
Yeah.
you know, and that's really rare to find.
Yeah.
Like they can, because it's one thing to be able to play it, right? It's another thing to be able to play it in a way that like really gels with what everyone's doing, you know, and that is it's a real challenge to find musicians who can really do that.
I know we got some floating around here in Fort Worth, and,
Oh,
and
no
people
doubt.
just talk so much hype about, you know, some of the drummers and musicians in the area that can do stuff like that. Like, I need them.
Right.
I gotta have them.
Yeah.
But
Well, and that's the other thing, right? Is the drums are very much in demand, right? So you learn to play drums, like you'll keep busy if you want to,
right.
you know.
And the other thing for me is I'll go to like Cicada and catch a show, and I just noticed like over the years, like I'll get hyper focused on the drums. Like I can't even hear the rest
Yeah.
of the band because I'm watching and I'm always over there now, always over here.
Absolutely.
Oh, how's he doing that with his feet? he's doing 3 different things with his feet.
Yeah.
He's got 9 different instruments up top. He's using that instrument 3 different ways. It's like
Yeah. Well, okay. So when we're mixing music, right?
Uh-huh.
The first thing, in terms of volume, the first thing you want to hear is the lead vocals. Second thing is drums. The beat is so important for making a song what it is, and for making it feel whatever it's supposed to feel like.
Right.
So if you, and like I've also worked with drummers that like they just want to come in with like canned beat on everything and just like they don't want to be creative at all.
This is what I do.
You know? They don't want to be creative, right? They're just like,
what
oh,
I have to
this
offer.
fits,
Yeah.
so it's good enough, you know.
Yeah.
And what I found is that like the song just falls flat if you don't have a creative drummer behind it, or at least someone who's willing to like take your ideas and like, you know, because I'm not a drummer by
Yeah.
trade, right? So like I know how to communicate at this point over the years. Like I've learned how to communicate what I'm looking for in a drum beat,
right.
and tell the drummer like, okay, I need you to take this and then make it something that like is more playable for you and also just feels good. You
Yeah.
know? And I found that like when I do that, I get much better results. So like if I come in and say like, this is what I'm looking for, obviously like I'm gonna get what I'm looking for, right? Whereas if I come in and say like, here's the song, do whatever you want with it, the first idea that pops up, the second, third, fourth, fifth ideas are probably not going to be it, right? So then we're sitting through this routine of like, okay, try it like this. Okay, no, that didn't work. Try it like that, you know, and like they start getting frustrated after a while, right? So if I come in with an idea, at least a good jumping off point, or even a reference song, and be like, I want it to kind of sound like this, you know.
Tell them
And
kind of ahead of time.
tremendously helpful.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Do you have a studio around here that you like to work at?
I actually do all of my recording at my home studio.
Really?
Yeah. So I.
You're mixing it all yourself.
So I'm not mixing it all myself, but I'm recording it all myself.
Okay, then you've got somebody to send it to.
Well, so this album is released in 4 parts, right? The first part of this album that I just put out is called Triptychs.
Is it already out?
The first part's out, yeah.
Okay.
It just came out September 22nd.
Name
so
of
it's
it?
been out for a couple of weeks. It's called Triptychs, like art triptychs. And then there's Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? It's 4 parts. So Volume 1 just came out. They're each 3 songs. So the whole thing is 12 songs that kind of follows the seasons of the calendar year.
Nice.
So yeah, and so that one came out on the fall equinox, so it's fall, right? So it's like September, October, November, and then winter's coming out on the solstice for December, January, February, and then March will be equinox again for spring, and then summer will be the last one. So the songs kind of fit kind of how I think about the season. So this one's like starts out with rock in September, and then it kind of descends more into like the last song I played was October. So it's like a little bit more of a chill vibe as we kind of get into it, and then November starts getting a little more like heavy and introspective, and then winter is like very much in that zone until you're kind of coming out of it. And as you're coming out of it with winter, you get to like February, like Valentine's Day, and like spring is coming, and like it's like this big orchestral love song. I got to record this song with the Mansfield Philharmonic Orchestra.
Wow,
which was like so cool, man! It was wild. Yeah,
really.
So they put together this it was like 20-something musicians. It was like woodwinds and strings, and they had a timpani and a drum kit, and and I mean it was
where was
amazing. This was this is the Mansfield Philharmonic Orchestra. They work out of a church in Mansfield. So like it's one of those like big, like beautiful kind of like spaces, right?
Yeah.
So we go in there, and we spent like 2 hours setting up like all the audio stuff, and I had a videographer there. We just went in and we did like 6 takes with the orchestra and the conductor. And the conductor is just like, he's this awesome guy. I'm really excited for people to see this one. So yeah, we're doing all the audio stuff right now, and then we're going to start putting the video together and everything. It's kind of in the style of like it's a live video, but it's ideally going to be kind of in the style of like a Snarky Puppy kind of a thing. Well, actually, the videographer, he's Snarky Puppy's videographer.
Okay.
Which is like insane. Like he's done all of their live albums. He's been like on the video team for all of them, and it's just like he's so good. I'm really excited that he's on the project.
Do we know him? What's his name?
His name is Brad Holt. He lives in Denton.
Okay.
And I hired him to do a music video for the last album I put out in 2022. And we just had such a good time working together and just chatting, and like he's just a really cool guy. Yeah. Very laid back, and but really good at what he does. So yeah, so he showed up with his, I think it's his brother, and the two of them kind of did all the video stuff, and we got the whole thing recorded, and now we're just kind of in the kind of mixing phase, and this is again for like volume 2, so that'll be coming out in December. So I'm not exactly scrambling, but I'm trying to get all the pieces put together for that so that I can send that off to mix.
What's the best way for people to find it?
So volume 1 is out now, everything except Amazon, which like that's just a personal.
Right, I remember you telling me that.
Me.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you like Amazon, it's not a problem. I'm not saying I never order from Amazon. It's just yeah, so it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, it's on Bandcamp. That's actually the best way to support musicians. If you're not familiar, Bandcamp is a website that it lets you stream, but it also lets you purchase the songs, and you can download them in like the highest quality format that you can. So you could put them on CDs, or you can do whatever you want with them.
I'm a big fan of Bandcamp. I wish that was more popular. It's
weird.
It's not mainstream,
like,
and it should be.
Yeah, and it would be, I think, if it weren't for Spotify, basically.
Larger evil companies.
Yeah. So yeah, Bandcamp is great because they pay they pay their artists very fairly compared to streaming services.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to support, that's a good place to do it. Everything's on my website and all that good stuff. But
excellent. We'll put that in the show notes so you guys don't have to search for it. Just look at this.
My name is
show
not
notes.
the easiest to spell for most Americans. Actually, my first name is hard because it's not a normal name. It's court, like Court, like a basketball court, and that's what I tell people, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and then they'll still spell it Cort, and I'm like, I don't know if you know how to spell the word court, but it's the same. It's the same.
I'm petrified of even saying people's names wrong. So sometimes, like I was doing an award show. Was it yesterday? What day is today? Oh yeah, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday, yeah.
And I'm calling people up, and if I had any kind of like second guessing moment, I would just say the name of their brand because it was on the trophy instead of saying their name, because I didn't want to. I just have this. It's awful whenever people mess up someone's name because they don't care, right? And I don't want people to think I don't care.
You care too much.
So it causes me to second guess myself and just pull a big question mark.
Right.
And I think that also is kind of aggravating for people, but my memory is so shit. And if
Yeah.
I don't have it written down right in front of me, I will second guess myself.
Right.
So like later, whenever I go to put your name on the episode,
Triple check.
I will, quadruple. I'll check. Every time I put it on
Right.
something, I double check.
Well, it always, because it becomes like a race thing, right? If it's from a different language or anything like that, it's just like, well, yeah.
Dude, it could be Brad Smith.
funny.
though.
Exactly, that's what I'm
It
saying,
really
yeah.
could be
No,
Brad
I-
Smith. And
I
I'd be
totally
like,
get it.
does he spell it the same way?
Right. Is it Smith with a Y for some reason?
Right.
There's an E at the end of it because he's from
It's
like
more of a Slavic
16th century
Smith.
London or something. Yeah.
All right, we're deep into this episode, and we got to get to the good stuff,
Oh,
man.
sorry.
Court, tell people where you're from, man.
Yeah. So I grew up in Dallas, born in Memphis, but I grew up in Dallas and went to school there. I went to college in Southern California, and that's kind of where I realized that like the culture I had been raised in Dallas was not universal. You know, you kind of get your first like taste of like, oh, like you can like be friends with and respect people of the other sex instead
Yeah.
of like thinking they're for whatever reason inferior to you, and all of these things that like especially like there's little parts of Dallas that like are and I'm not trying to rag on Dallas because like I'm
No, that's okay.
I
we do that here.
I had a very nice childhood. I had a great childhood. But you know, Dallas is it's so transactional and it's so kind of corporate, and that kind of bleeds into people's personal lives in a lot of ways, right? Where it's like you start internally having this like knee-jerk reaction to like judge people based on like what kind of car are they driving, or like what kind of shoes are those, or like is that a real bag, like a real Louis Vuitton, or like whatever, you know. And like people like it becomes so image oriented, right? And so kind of superficial in that way that you know, I went to California, in Southern California, it's like nobody gives a shit. Like people like you walk out wearing whatever, or like nothing, or like, you know, like no shoes, like do whatever, like, you know. And it's like you would see someone like that, and in Dallas you'd be like, oh,
Homeless guy.
homeless, like
Yeah.
I need to help this person out, or like we need to call the cops or whatever it is, like whatever your response to seeing an unhoused person is. And like, but in California it's just like, yeah, that's my neighbor, or like that's just he's a regular guy, you know, and he pays $3,000 a month for his apartment.
Right,
You know, it's
right.
like it's just normal. So like you kind of get to know different people. There were a lot more queer people, like LGBTQ people. Racial diversity was like probably about the same, but much more integrated, right? In like southern cities, especially like Dallas, Houston, and like
You have your
Atlanta,
pockets of
places like
different
that. Yeah, it's
ethnic
like they're
groups.
very segregated, like
Yeah.
just based on the real estate, and you don't really see that much of it when you're in Southern California. It's kind of become more now, just because, you know, real estate's like insane in California, right? So it's
Right.
like, well, if you can even afford to live in a city at all, then like you're probably doing pretty well, which means you're probably white or Asian, right? I mean, statistically speaking. And so that it was very eye-opening for me to say like, oh, okay, like I don't have to just be like this Dallas person. I can be maybe like this like hippie person. That's kind of interesting, you know? And then I graduated college, and I went and I spent a year living and teaching in Vietnam, which is where my dad is from, Vietnam.
Okay.
So kind of a family connection there, but like I didn't grow up, because I grew up mixed. You know, my mom was white, born and raised in Dallas, like grew up riding horses, you know.
Yeah.
And I
Real quick, I missed it. How old were you when you did this, going to Vietnam?
I was 23.
Okay.
Or 22.
And you were there for
22,
2 years?
I was there for 1 year.
Oh, wow,
just
okay.
like a full academic year, basically, because I was teaching English at this like college in this really rural area. But I went because I was like, I want to get in touch with the culture, right? Like, I don't feel like I grew up with any of that. Like, I met my grandmother like twice in my whole life. Like, once I went when I was 7. We went to Vietnam, and that was the first time I ever met her. And then she came to the U.S. one time when I was like 14, and those were the only 2 times I ever met her. You know? And I was like, I feel like this calling to like go, but I don't feel connected to it at all. Like I feel like a fraud in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
Like even wanting a connection with it feels wrong. And that's kind of one of the things about being a mixed race person that I've, you know, as I meet more and more of them, it's like, that's pretty universal, right?
Yeah.
Feeling like I don't quite fit in anywhere, right? But I really wanted to just learn more. I was like, at the very least, I can learn more, and like, who knows what will happen. So I went and this really rural area. I was teaching in this. It was a college, but it was more like a trade school kind of a thing. It's like they had people. They were like, okay, we're going to learn English for finance because we're going to go work in a bank, or like we're going to learn English for hospitality because we're going to go work in a hotel. Like we're going to learn English for But then there was also, there were other trades like mechanics and things like that that like had nothing to do and I would hang out with them, but like I didn't teach them. But I was in this village basically. The school is surrounded on like 3 sides by different fields, like rice and flowers and just farm fields.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really get around by myself except by walking, or like trying to catch a ride to the bus stop, basically to get into the city. Just because there's no access, right?
Okay.
No access to vehicles, basically.
Okay. Got it.
Like I could ride a bike, basically, if someone would let me borrow.
But there was no transportation.
Not really. Like people had like motor scooters. But like no one's gonna like just let me take their scooter, right?
Right.
So I was gonna can you give me a ride to the bus stop, and then I'd ride the bus, and I'm the only guy that doesn't look super duper Asian, sitting on this bus, and just it's fun. So I didn't speak any Vietnamese when I left, but when I got there, I got like a few weeks of like kind of like intensive basic language training, and then they were like, okay, go to your school. Like I lived on the campus. And aside from the English teachers, like pretty much no one spoke English like in this village. Like they might maybe some broken English, but I met one guy. I was just walking to class. I was like going to teach like my first week, and he just whistled. He was like, eh. And I was like, okay. He like kind of gestured for me to come over. I walked over. He's sitting at this little like green tea cart like on the side of the road. He's smoking a cigarette, and I walk over, and he's just like, hi, how are you? And I'm like, oh, like. I'm doing well, and like most Vietnamese people, like that's all they can say, right? They say, hi, how are you? And this guy, like, he kind of keeps going. He's just like, yeah, like, why are you here? And I was like, oh, I'm teaching. And he's like, oh, you teaching? I was like, I'm teaching English. Yeah. He was like, yeah. And he was like, do you speak Vietnamese? And I was like, a little bit, I'm trying to learn. And he was like, oh, okay, like I can help you learn. And I was like, that's great. So then he asked me, he was like, what do you like to do? And I was like, well, I like to play music. That's like what I love to do. And he was like, do you know a song called Don't Let Me Down by the Beatles? And I was like, I do know that song. And he's like, can you play it? And I was like, I can learn it. And he was like, I want you to come to my uncle's restaurant tonight, and I want you to play it for me and my friends. And we'll give you dinner. Like, we'll make you dinner, basically. And I was like, okay. And, like, this guy, he became, like, my best friend. It's like the people in Vietnam were, like, so unbelievably welcoming to, like, someone who very clearly is an outsider, right?
Yeah.
They didn't care. And as soon as I was like, oh yeah, my dad's from Vietnam, they were like, oh, of course, like, yeah, come on, like, and then it becomes like, I don't know if that had anything to do with it, because like the other teachers in different cities around the country, like I would go and visit them, and like they were offered the same welcome. Not all of them took it, because I think some of them were a little leery of like, I don't want to just go to a stranger's house and like, I don't know,
right.
Am I gonna wake up tomorrow? Like, what's gonna happen?
Sure.
But
typical American mindset, right?
Right. Yeah. Because like.
I'm sitting here thinking the same,
it's like
wondering
so much violent
the same thing.
crime, right? But Vietnam has like hardly any violent crime. That's the thing. So it's like you get pickpockets, and that's just
and you would think that, I mean, it's so 50 years ago, but you would think they would still have some serious issue with Americans.
Man, it came up a little bit, but not in a way that like no one held it against me.
Sure.
No one was ever thinking like, oh, but I was in the north too, right? So it was like, I mean, bombs were falling on Hanoi, and I was just outside of Hanoi, so it was like this whole thing of just like what they wanted more than anything was to show me what life was like during that time and what it was like now, and they wanted to show me how they survived and how not only survived but how their culture like thrived through like centuries of Chinese occupation. And like literally like 1,000 years, right? And then there was this revolution, and then the French came in, and they set up like a little dummy dictatorship, and then there was the French Revolution, and then the Americans. It's just like it's like country after country, basically another. Just trying to like intervene and like take over this like small nation, but their culture has thrived through all of this, and it has not disappeared and been assimilated into any of their occupants, right? And
You feel like that's still true?
it's complicated, right? Because like with the advent of like the internet and like MTV and like American culture, the assimilation has become much more of a cultural one because it's a symbol of status, right? To say like
Money for nothing, chicks for free.
essentially, right? Because it's like, but you know, but it is a little different, right? Because it's like the really important traditions are being kept alive by especially older generations, but like they're being passed down, especially outside of cities, right? In cities like Hanoi and especially in like Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, you see a lot of like westernization that's happening because it's like it's just the way of the future, right?
Right.
And it's like if we're gonna do trade with Japan and we're gonna do trade with Australia, we're gonna do trade with the U.S. Like we have to walk the walk, you know, we have to talk the talk, and like that becomes really important. But I mean, what I was told basically is that like over thousands of years, Vietnamese culture has persisted and thrived, and in like 20 years, MTV basically ruined it. You know, like just it's like it's so insane, and I like
Bunch
I
of
know
kids walking
it's
around like
not
Marty
wholly
McFly.
true, but it's basically it's a lot of that. It's like it's the young people that want to be cool, they want to be hip, they want to be trendy, and they want to understand like what's happening in the world around them. You know, they don't want to be isolated the way that historically Vietnam has been. You know, and I get all of that. You know. I mean, there's a reason that I went to Vietnam, right? Because I wanted to see, like, what's life like? Like, I want to go to these places. I want to learn about them. And, like, if you don't have the ability to travel, the next best thing is having a resource of education, right? Which could be something like MTV or could be, you know, books or, you know, whatever else it is. But, like, there's something so engaging about video especially, right? That,
Yeah.
like, that really, and it makes you feel like you're seeing real life. And it's not, right? But it's probably as close as you could reasonably get without forking over a couple $1,000 for a plane ticket and trying to get your visa and your passport.
Got a lot of hope for VR.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Did you make it across the border into Cambodia at all?
I didn't go to Cambodia. I really wanted to, but I traveled all around the country in Vietnam because that was like my main focus. And then I spent a few weeks in China after that. So I went and I visited a friend who was doing his own teaching fellowship in Guangzhou in China. Again, very rural, but like Guangzhou is pretty. It's a fairly big.
Kind of a rural hub.
City. Yeah, but it's but he was like even further outside of that. So it was a very similar situation where I was like, okay, yeah, I get that I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna be able to communicate with anyone here.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
It's
Why do you
so
ask about
regional.
Cambodia is so like I really want to go.
It's obscure.
No,
You're
it's
surprised I brought it up?
not even because it's actually like it's one of the it's really high on my list because of a lot of the like you know the temple's religious like
It's unbelievable.
artifacts and everything.
It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. And yeah, I mean, there's so many countries on my list. Cambodia is definitely one of them. Unfortunately, the only words I know in Khmer are words you cannot say in public. I had some family friends that I kind of grew up with, and we hung out a lot, and I got to see a lot of their culture through kind of a filter, because I mean they're here in the United States. They worked their asses off. That family murdered themselves to get what they got, and they are now very prosperous in certain communities, and they've done very well for themselves. But they were refugees from Cambodia during the Vietnam occupation, that period, and so he got out of there when it was just terrible. But I mean, Dad he rode a bicycle 10 miles to and from work every day just to make sure that he could earn the money to send home to get his family back to the United States, and they're all here now. And the story alone is that just knowing that gave you so much respect for this family. And so I've just always been fascinated with the Cambodians and the Vietnamese and just that entire pocket.
Yeah, there is something that is like truly, it's I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like we have this idea in the West and especially in the U.S. I think that like, you know, that like it's insane to like to work so hard for so little, right? because we're so obsessed with the idea of luxury and leisure, right? And in historically poor communities, and especially in like nations that are trying to rebuild themselves after they've been bombed to shit, these people they're so focused just on survival that it's like, it doesn't matter what I have to do. Like, I have to do this. I'm just going to do it, and it's not like, I don't want to do it. It's like, I'm just going to do it, because the idea of not doing it is just doesn't factor in. It's just unacceptable, right? So until you start seeing like that developing middle class and that real leisure time start to creep in, like when you look at people who are faced with adversity, they don't complain about it. They simply address it. They simply go for it. They
whatever it takes.
Just do it, and it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
And then their kids who grew up in America,
they don't get it.
They're looking at their kids and they're like, what? Like, what do you mean you don't want to do your homework?
Yeah.
Like, do you not understand what an honor and a privilege it is to be able to have homework in this country?
Yeah.
And that conflict, that intergenerational conflict, is like, it's so
typical.
hard. It is, but it's also so hard to address, because it's like, you're coming from such completely different perspectives. And like, if your kids don't understand what life is like in these countries, like real day-to-day life, like there's no way that they could possibly fathom, what kind of, quote unquote sacrifice, but like the difficulty of just daily life and how casually that's accepted.
As a first-generation American, you're growing up being raised by people that might as well be from another planet, right? How do you connect with your family whenever they were escaping absolute tyranny?
Necessarily, right? They can tell you all the stories, and my dad told all kinds of stories, and but until I went and I lived there, and like I lived the same kind of life, it's just like I didn't have hot water for a shower for a year, and like that wasn't even weird. Like after in the winter, because the showers are outdoor also, right? So like they're like open air so that they can like properly ventilate, right? Yeah. So it's like it's 34 degrees and I'm trying to take a shower, and it's like, is it miserable? The first few times, yeah, but then after a while it's just like, this is just life. You just have to accept it.
I love outdoor showers, by the way.
That's very good information to have. Thank you.
So how wild was it for you? Do you remember at 7 years old going to Vietnam for the first time?
I have certain memories, yeah. So I remember meeting my grandmother for the first time and like feeling kind of nervous, but I was already like almost as tall as she was, so it was like really weird, right? She was 4'11". She was she was not a large woman. And I remember crossing the street. That's like one of like low-key traumatic, like crossing the street, because like all these motor scooters are coming. There are technically traffic laws, but like they're not really enforced, right? And there are traffic lights, but
no one's using them.
Well, like probably like 75% of people use them, right? So like, it's like it's enough. Like people stop at these lights, and you're like, okay, cool. But then like someone might just go, like they might just go, right? So like you learn like, okay, when you're gonna cross the street, you just start walking, and you keep a constant, steady pace, and you never stop, because once you stop, it's really hard to get going again, because like they're just zipping all around in these scooters. They don't really slow down. They will just veer slightly out of the way, and they're tracking you as you're walking, right? So if you stop, or God forbid you try and back up or turn around, like
you're gonna get hit.
You're fucked, right? Yeah. you're gonna cause somebody to have an accident. You might be involved, you might not, but you're gonna cause a problem. So
just go for it.
So yeah, that's a memory I have of being 7, is like my brother trying to cross the street and like basically pissing his pants, right? Because it's like it's terrifying. As a kid, you're just like, oh shit, like
Frogger level expert.
Yeah,
immediately.
No, it's like level 99.
Last life.
Yeah, and then I remember eating ice cream out of a coconut shell. That was like one of the fondest memories. We got like an ice cream sundae with like this amazing like tropical, it's like passion fruit and like dragon fruit, like ice cream, and coconut ice cream. And it's 3 scoops in this like coconut shell and with a little umbrella and everything. It was just like the peak of luxury for a 7-year-old. Right? It's like nothing could possibly be fancier than this. And it costs like $1.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's $2 now because of inflation.
Oh, jeez, tell me about it. But my so I remember like riding on the back of my uncle's scooter to go and like get this ice cream with my aunt, and like it was just So some memories. but a lot more from the second time. When I was actually old enough to have to like kind of fend for myself a little bit. Like because I'd go down to the market at 5 a.m. because it's a local market. And the meat's fresh. You get it at 5 a.m. I was blessed to have a mini fridge, like you would have in like a hotel room.
Yeah.
And because most everyone, my students, they didn't have any of that, right? They would get their meat in the morning and
Cook
they would
it.
find a way to keep it fresh until they could cook it for dinner, right?
Yeah.
So like sometimes that's ice just in a bucket, right? Whatever you can do. And I'd buy my food for the day every day because there's not enough room in the fridge to you don't have leftovers, right?
Right.
So like I buy enough food for me for the day. I learned how to kind of like to navigate okay, how much rice do I need and like how much meat do I need to eat in a day? Everything's in grams also, right? Because we're the only people who are like holding out here, right? So I was like, do I 200-300 grams of meat a day? Like what's normal, and like and some days they have certain things and some days they just don't, right? You go to the market, like out in the street, and you're like, I need tomatoes. And like no one's got tomatoes today, or like the tomatoes are gone today, or the pork is gone today. So like now I have to eat chicken, and the chicken does not look great. Like the chicken looks like I don't know. So it's like, am I actually going to eat this? So it's a lot of things like that. So I do that at 5 a.m. so I can get back, and then I can either make breakfast or grab breakfast on my way to like start teaching classes at 7. So I'm like living the life, and I made so many like amazing friends through music and just through, honestly mostly through music because I was like, there was this guitar club in this little village, and this guy was just like, will you come and like just join our club? And I was like, absolutely, that sounds amazing. Like I want you to teach me a lot of Vietnamese songs. I want you to teach me like folk songs, pop songs, like whatever you want to teach me. Like I want to learn. So like and then my students would bring songs to be like, I want you to learn this one. I'd be like, okay, cool. So I'd learn all these by ear. And then, I got to a point where I could start really kind of understanding some of the lyrics, and I realized some of these were they're like communist propaganda songs. So it's like you get in this place of like, okay, I can play these here, but if I go to like Ho Chi Minh City, like down in the south, where there's still a lot of like Western and capitalist influence,
I could get hurt.
These may not fly, right? Yeah, and people like generally speaking, like they're chill because they're just like, this guy didn't know what he's saying. He didn't even know what he's saying, But people were so surprised that my pronunciation was like halfway decent as a Westerner. They kind of like freaked out a little bit, and they were like, okay, so we want you to like play at this like camping festival. That's what they called it. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but it was basically like for the school, like the entire school comes out and they set up tents. They literally like the camp.
Yeah.
But there's like it's like a music festival sort of, they have this stage. It's basically like a glorified talent show, right? So I do this and I play guitar for someone to sing, and then like I sing a folk song or something, and they're like, oh, that's cute, yeah, and they were like, there's going to be another one in a couple of weeks, do you want to do it? And I was just like, sure, whatever. And this one was not for the school, it was actually for like the entire province. So instead of like a couple hundred people, now it was like a few thousand people. And I did it again, and people like started wanting to like meet me, and they kind of introduced themselves, and like there was one person who basically like wanted me to stay in Vietnam and like work as a musician. They were like, we want to like sign you, and we want to like take you on tour around here. So like, let's do a trial run.
You did this?
There is another school assembly in Hanoi for like all the schools in Hanoi. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went, and I was like, and this was like an amphitheater, like in the round, like fully in the round. I'm here, like just on the ground, and like I shit you not, like no, like 20 minutes before I'm supposed to perform, this student comes up to me and he's like, hey, can you play an English song for me to sing? And I was like, what do you want to do? And he was like, do you know My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion? And I was like, I'm going to learn it right now because I have got to see this. So I go out and like I'm playing, it's like 5,000 people.
Tell me he crushed it.
Oh my God. Like I mean, the thing about Vietnamese people is that like when they are performing, like they are amazingly dramatic. Like they get fully committed. They get so into it. You don't see because otherwise they won't perform, right?
Yeah.
Like they will like. I mean, he leaned hard into it, and he did amazing. And like I kept up with the guitar, it was fine, you know. But there was like 5,000 people like all around you. They had TV cameras on. This was broadcast like on national TV. It was like a whole thing, right? And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like I didn't think.
How did you get looped into this?
So
That's right.
yeah, so they signed me to like a recording. They were like, we're gonna like, so you're gonna go. And you're going to go in the studio and you're going to record all the Vietnamese songs you learned. And I was like, okay, cool. Can I bring some of my students? Because like they really wanted to be part of this and everything. So they recorded us in like professional studio. At that point, it was the nicest studio I'd ever worked in. Like it was like fully decked out. And like we spent like 2 full days tracking these songs. And yeah, and then like there were these like, I don't know like what kind of reps they were, but they were just like, hey, yeah, we want to take you. We're going to, like, take you into the city, and, like, we're just going to show you around. And they basically wine and dine me. Like, they took me out to dinner. They took me to go see a Vietnamese opera, like, in an opera house in Hanoi. And, like, it was this beautiful thing. And I was just like, oh, my God. Like, am I actually going to do this? Like,
and it's just out of popularity of people liking you.
It
and
was
they
basically just like this novelty of this basically white guy who can sing in Vietnamese. And, like, it actually sounds good. Like he's not completely butchering it, you know, and like he can play guitar and sing at the same time. Like that's not like a super common thing, you know. And it was just this whole like. So like
you're 24 at this time.
23, yeah,
23,
and like I didn't realize this, but there is apparently a I don't want to call it a fetish, but it's a predilection, for specifically half Asian, half white men, like half Vietnamese, half white men in Vietnam.
It's an option on Tinder.
So like it's basically like so all of the like young women in Vietnam are like they think I'm like the sexiest thing they've ever seen.
You're
like,
Elvis.
I've never once in my entire life thought of myself as like being an attractive person, right? I'm normal at best, you know. And all of a sudden these girls basically, you know, in their late teens, 20s, because like I'm teaching college, right? So like they're more or less my age. They're just like fawning over me, and like people like these people see this and they're just like, oh, dollar signs. Like we're gonna make a mint off of this kid, right? So they're like they want to get me an apartment. They're like you just stay. We'll figure out the visa. Like I mean like you can become a citizen if you want. Like you could have an amazing, easy life here. Like, the cost of living is nothing, and we're going to pay you handsomely, and you are just going to go and perform music. And I was just like, am I just going to be, like, a pop star? Like, it became this really weird, like, existential crisis for me, because I was like, I had a plan. Like, I was going to go to grad school when I got back to the U.S., and it was like, you know, I was dating someone in the U.S. at the time, you know, like a college girlfriend, and it was just this whole thing. And, like, I was like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, do I just keep doing this forever? And like ultimately,
are you still teaching English?
Still teaching English. Like these are on the weekends. They're like they're like we'll come pick you up in your like little village and we'll bring you into the city. Or like, can you take the bus in and like meet us at like the train station in Hanoi? And I'm like, whatever. Like I got nothing else going. I'm not doing anything. You know, like so.
Can you bring me 200 grams of rice?
Literally, it was just like yeah. So it was wild, yeah, because like. And I'm going to karaoke with these people, like these, you know, there's these guys in suits, you know, and like everyone is like trying to hook me up with some woman. And I was just like, listen, I'm seeing someone, I can't, like, this is not the move, not the move. And then like, yeah, so it became this like weird, like, what am I supposed to do? And ultimately, obviously, like I decided to come back to the U.S. because like my visa was like, it was going to expire. And like I talked to the program coordinators. I was just like, hey, these people really like they want to like keep this thing going. Like, what are my options basically? And they were like, oh, it's not an option for you to stay. Like, you can go back and then come back here on a new visa.
Is there a cool down period?
Because you need like I think there was, and they were like, I think it was like minimum like it wasn't crazy. It was like 90 days or something like that.
Oh yeah.
They were like basically like go home. And then, like, if you want to come back here, it'll be like the reason for your visit has to be different, right? Because it's not you're not here to teach English anymore.
Right.
You're coming for a different reason. And I was like, okay. And then, you know, the pressure, like I started getting more pressure from some of these people, and I was like, okay, it's starting to feel a little icky, you know, where I was like, I don't know, like, I don't know you people, like, I don't know who you are, I don't know what company you work for, like, all I know is that, like, you want me to perform for you, and it started feeling a little bit like potentially exploitative, but also it's just kind of like I need some space to kind of go clear my head. So I was like, okay.
90 days might have been perfect to like just do some research and
yeah, right,
get out of there.
Yeah, and that's essentially what happened. Like I went home and I was like, okay. Like 2 weeks later, I met the woman that now is my wife. I actually broke up with my college girlfriend while I was in Vietnam because it was just like, again, like
Sure.
you get the perspective.
Young
you're kinda
love.
Like, yes, and also is like you get the perspective. It's just like I am basically like leading this person on. Like I need to stop this. Like I'm not doing the right thing here. And so I came back and back to Texas, and I had plans to move to Austin because I was like, I'm going to be a musician. Like clearly this is what I meant to do. Like if this pop star thing in Vietnam doesn't work out, then like I still need to make music wherever I go. So I had plans to move to Austin with my best friend from Dallas, and like 3 days before we're supposed to move, I meet the woman who is now my wife, and she's from Austin and was now like living in Dallas, and we basically ships passing in the night, you know, and she was also seeing someone at the time, right? So it was just like
Scandalous.
There's nothing here. Like she's sweet, I like her, whatever, but there's nothing here. And then, like, over the next few months, like, we just keep talking more and more. And then, like, she ends up breaking up with her boyfriend. And the whole time, my best friend, who's my roommate, he is, his girlfriend is her roommate. So the two of them are, like, coordinating behind the scenes, trying to get us together, basically. So she's over here be like, you should break up with your boyfriend. You know it's not right. You know it's not good for you. And he's over here be like, hey, do you think Whitney wants to do some album art for you? She told me she might want to like make some art for you for like your next album, and I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. So we're
Totally unaware,
professionally working. Yeah, I had no idea any of this was happening.
It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
Yeah, no, I'm a home wrecker of the worst sort because I didn't even know that I was wrecking someone's home. Yeah, so we got together, moved to Austin. I worked there for like, I don't know, 4 years, and was doing the music thing. I was a full-time musician. It was great. I was making rent, except that, you know, I'm playing like 6 nights a week, mostly covers, and it's like, it's
draining you.
It gets to be a drag.
Yeah.
You know? Well, then all of a sudden we're talking about getting married, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm 25, 26, and I'm like,
you were out of education at the time?
So when I first moved to Austin, I was still teaching part-time with Austin ISD. I was like, I was doing the math elective, which is basically like remedial math. So like you lose your elective if you're failing math, and you have to just take more math. So I was that teacher.
Everybody loved you.
Yeah, no, everyone was very happy to be where they were. But I had a pretty good rapport with students, right? So made it through. But I got really burnt out on the school system. I loved the teaching and I loved the kids, but the admin stuff was like, it was killer.
I bet it's better now. That's a joke.
Yeah. So we did that, and then got job offers up in Arlington. So we moved there. That's where we got married. And after that, I was like, we need to get out of Arlington because like I love the people in Arlington, but the corporate structure of like,
oh, it's different.
It's all chain
Yeah.
restaurants. Everything is just chains.
Yeah.
It's like Arlington has so many people.
Push that mic a little closer. Sorry, it keeps drifting away from you.
Okay. I feel like I'm licking it now. Okay, no, am I good?
It's all right.
Okay,
Yeah, it's even better. It's way better.
Just lick it. It's fine. Okay, no, I can. There's a sweet spot there.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
Found it.
So, like, everyone that I met in Arlington, I was like, these are wonderful people. It's, like, insanely diverse. So many different cultures, so many different people, largely because of UTA, right? But you have so many opportunities. It's just that the people with money don't want to spend their money on anything that isn't, like, Chili's.
Right.
Or like another sports bar.
Yes.
And, like, I'm not even opposed to sports bars, but, like, these aren't even, like, locally owned sports bars. They're, like, you know, like TGI Friday. And I'm just like, where like there are so many people here that you could have such an amazing culture, and like it's just not being supported. So, Fort Worth kind of was like, well, let's check it out, and like immediately fell in love. Like,
Right.
I love the vibe of Fort Worth. Like it's so laid back. There is so much that is like independent here, but still well supported by the community, and like people they like crave this like the small business, the locally owned restaurant, like they want that and they support it, which I think is like incredible and like so hard to find in a city the size of Fort Worth. So I think
I hope that continues, because without the support of like the city of Fort Worth, I think that's going to go away.
I do feel like we're like Fort Worth is kind of at a crossroads where it's like, are we going to go like, are we going to be able to keep supporting this, or are we going to kind of go the way of
and it looks like the way the city of Fort Worth is doing things right now. Sorry, but just from what I've seen, the city is putting grants and attention and funding towards national brands.
Yeah.
Trying to put
they want Fort Worth to be an export.
Trying to put a cow head on it so it looks all Fort Worthy, and then calling it local. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of what it's starting to look like.
Well,
to me.
I mean, I do feel like I
hate that.
Yeah, no, and like I agree.
Because the population here, the people, want to support local.
Right.
But it doesn't look like the city of Fort Worth is behind that.
Right. Well, and you add the economic stressors that like the most people in the city are facing right now, and it's like even if I wanted to, I can't afford to eat out every night. You know, I can't afford to go to the bar every night. Like I can't, or if I do go to the bar, I'm gonna get a beer. I'm not gonna buy like $14 cocktails.
I can't do what I used to,
even though I fucking love them. I do. Like I want that, but I can't do it. I have I got 3 kids, and like I have no job. It's like a whole thing. So. Yeah, I completely agree. Like, there's got to be some support coming in, and I do find that the people that are most insulated from all of these kind of economic stressors are the people who tend to be the decision makers, right? They're the people
exactly right.
who are
they don't see it.
They don't see it, and they honestly don't always believe it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You can present like statistics to people, and they're just like, well, yeah, but like everyone's doing fine.
It turns into
like,
pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
We are not doing fine.
Yeah.
Man. Like I don't know how to tell you.
Your service industry workers, your local business owners, anybody that works with those folks. Yeah. Anybody that's fringe connected to that.
Well, especially like gig workers, like musicians.
Everybody. We see it.
Well, anyone in entertainment too, because like. It's seen as a luxury, right? Is like the ability to have live music in a venue, or the ability to like it's seen as like, well, go get a real job, basically, And it's like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but also, like the idea from a capitalistic standpoint, an economic standpoint, is like the value being provided, right? It's like you get paid for value, right? So like. If you truly don't believe that these musicians who are making music and are creating music and are sharing it with people, like if you truly don't believe that has value, then I would encourage you to try going 30 days without it and see how it affects your life. You know,
and like we were talking about earlier with people's personalities, there's different ways for you to look at life, and you're not wrong, but it's just different, I guess.
People gotta eat though, man. Like, can we not just agree on that? Like,
but I will tell you right now, and I hate this. It's very disheartening to me because I love Fort Worth culture, and I'm not going to tell you the name of the business. Some people are going to be able to figure it out just by the context, but I will leave this to the business owner to disseminate. I don't think it's a secret, but I don't have permission to tell people this, and it's nobody I work with directly. It's just somebody I bumped into. There was a venue here in town that shut down not too long ago, and it was a thriving, badass, absolutely one of my favorite places to go catch a live show from like a 5-piece band or smaller. It was wonderful. The vibe was excellent. They had great food. It was the spot, man. I loved it.
Yep.
And they closed down, unfortunately, and I got access to the numbers because anybody that's inside the TABC licensed world, you can get their information. It's public. Looked at the numbers. weren't doing too bad,
Right.
but they, in my opinion, closed down from exhaustion. They are reopening this place under a different name. It's going to be some of the same operational people, same management team, probably some of the same staff.
Right.
But they're not going to do live music. And when
a
I
sports bar now, yeah.
when I talked, basically,
Yeah.
when I talked to the owner, he was like, live music just wasn't doing anything for us, man. It was exhausting.
If we're talking about the same place, they were one of the few places that really paid fairly the musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see how that's hard, right? Because it's like the ability to sustain that and like, you know, quantify it in terms of like, you know, financial incentive is really hard.
Yeah. So you're going to see more of that. You're going to continue to see that happen. And then the only place to catch live music is going to be Tannehill's, which is half owned by, is it Live Nation?
Yeah, and it's
one of those.
yeah,
Don't quote me on that, but it's not owned by Fort Worth people. You know, we have Tim Love.
It's all national acts there anyway. You know, like
Well,
you
and
might get openers from
Yeah.
the locals, but like
But that's what we need. We need venues like that are going to put up
Like
a
a
big
good
national
mid-size,
name
yeah.
and some local openers. So
That's
I
fair.
applaud them for that. But, you know, that's not 100% local. And I don't want to demonize them for that. I think Tim Love's a decent guy,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate what he's done for our community. And you should go to Tannehill's. I'm not saying you
it's a
should.
cool spot. Yeah,
But there are local venues that are 100% local, and those are the places that night after night provided space for our singer-songwriters to make money and entertain the public, and they are dying.
yeah.
And if they come back, they don't want nothing to do with live music because nobody's going out to see these shows, which I get. Economically, it's hard right now. It's hard to go catch a show even when there's no cover at the door because the drinks are $15 a cocktail,
Right.
you know, whatever. But
Yeah.
I'm watching it, and it makes me sad, and I wonder what's going to happen next. By the way, there's a place called Pour and Glory. They are a sponsor of the show, but it is one of the last live music places. Cicada, not a sponsor, but I'll tell you right now, you need to go to Cicada. They're wonderful places to catch live music. Open mics, shows all the time. And I'll tell you right now, Cicada does charge a cover with some shows, but every dollar that you spend at the door goes to the musician. Cicada doesn't pocket the cover for that. So
Really? Wow, I didn't know that.
I just found out
That's
not
amazing.
too long ago. We did a show there with the Spectacle, Trash Puppies, and Temporal Distortion.
Oh, I love them.
Dude, best part of the music series, in my opinion. It was incredible. Temporal Distortion is amazing.
I mean,
The other two are great too, but I was just hyper-focused on Temporal Distortion. His stage presence is nauseating. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he's got a podcast too, and
Does he really?
I did his.
He probably told me that.
couple
And I
years
forgot.
back.
What's it called?
Oh shoot, hang on. It's called Local Famous. Local Famous Records is the name of the
Oh, shit.
production.
Okay. Ooh, they sent me something the other day, and I didn't share it because I didn't recognize the brand.
That's all good. Yeah, but that's
Now I do.
It's the same guy. And no, I mean absolutely. Their music is so great, and he's a huge supporter of the local music scene too. So I mean,
Well, everybody that's involved with it, you know, Sean Russell, Tommy Luke, Denver Williams, all our homies, man, they're out there like cheering, trying to keep this thing going.
yeah,
But, you know, at the same time, with all the pressures from every other angle that we just described, it's like playing violins on the Titanic.
this is the hardest thing, right? Is it like I mean, you've got DIY venues, and then you've got music venues that are full production, right? And getting the ones that are full production that are a decent size for a local band or a local bill is getting harder and harder, right? Because those venues are in this weird kind of in-between place where like they need to be making money from music, but they're not. And the DIY venues, they don't care, right? Like your DIY show is not how they make their money, right? Like they've got a built-in crowd that's going to come.
When you
buy
say
the drink.
DIY crowd, you're talking about like pay to play, like you got to sell 15 tickets to get on stage.
No, it's like you can do a show here, but we're not actively booking, right? It's like
we'll let you play.
it's
We're
like
not paying
there's
you.
a space, right? We're not going to pay you.
Yeah.
Like we don't really like a lot of them won't even let you charge a cover, or if you do charge a cover, we're going to split it, right? And you know, basically you have to cover the production costs, you know. So like make sure you can bring enough people to do that, or bring your own production crew and set it up yourself, right? Because like you don't have a PA or like you don't have a sound system, and it's like, well, you got to figure it out,
Well, I don't love that because I'm a strong advocate for musicians need to be paid for what they're doing. I mean, you're providing a service. But would the alternative of not having any stages left in Fort Worth be better than that?
Right. And that's the hardest thing, right? Is it like, and that's what happened in Austin, right? Is that Austin became such an inhospitable place for musicians, but musicians keep coming simply because it's
Austin.
It's the only place that they can go. Yeah. And when I lived and worked there, it was better even than it is now, but it was still, you could see this sort of trend with like the festivals are the thing. That's what brings in the revenue, right, for the city. And the city doesn't care that much about like what's going on the rest of the time. Yeah. So again, they're not really helping out with these local venues. A lot of like long-standing venues in Austin that are like world famous, have shut down or have had to move or have moved out of town or whatever it is, And what you started seeing there was basically more and more of the solo songwriters setting up shop wherever they could, right? And maybe it's a coffee shop, or maybe it's a sandwich place, or maybe it's a bar. But most of those are kind of, they're oversaturated, right? Like the market is like, there's so many musicians,
right?
And like skilled, like very skilled musicians, and especially when it comes to like the rock bands, there's a lot of those, and there wasn't really a place for like solo artists in these like more traditional type venues, right? One notable exception being like Hole in the Wall, kind of close to the university area. It was like, and it's still around. It's one of my favorite spots. Like I pretty much always want to hit it up when I'm going through Austin. But for solo artists, it became this like, okay, well, we'll just, where are the restaurants and the cafes and stuff? Well, they're kind of further away from the downtown area, right? Because the downtown area now is like it's Dirty Six. It's all full of these other bands, and like there's nothing wrong with any of that. Except these bands aren't really getting paid much either, right? They're getting paid based on ticket sales, and the venue's taking most of the money because they have to, because rent's not cheap.
Yep.
So then you start moving further and further outside of the city center. And
Dripping Springs, baby, that's where it's at.
Dripping Springs. I mean, they just had a songwriting festival. Like they're trying, and that's the thing, right? Is it like it's going to be these small places that feel the need to support because they don't have it yet. And once you have it, you start taking it for granted. Yeah. And then you lose it, and then all of a sudden you're wondering like, why are all the musicians living in Buda or living in like, like Round Rock or living wherever, and it's because they can't afford to live in Austin because they can't.
Priced out.
They can't get. Yeah, and they can't make the income that they need to. Even playing 6-7 nights a week. Like, I still keep in touch with a lot of musicians, and it's the same story everywhere.
Yeah.
So the question I think becomes for us is like, what is the kind of place that can support musicians and also can support kind of a general public in a way that keeps everyone happy and also keeps the business afloat.
Can I tell you and Mayor Maddie Parker my idea?
I'm ready, yeah.
I think that the city should take a pointed and divisive approach. They should really put some dollars behind these legacy businesses that support local culture. Now, there should be a subsidy program. If you're going to have bands on stage at your venue, say 5 nights a week, there needs to be a program like, okay, the city is going to pump X number of dollars into this grant that you can apply for, and maybe it's paid out quarterly or annually or something like that. It'd be better if it was in shorter increments. But give these small businesses, like Twilight, Pouring Glory, Cicada, or Main and Southside, when it was Main and Southside.
Right.
Before they close their doors, do what you can to keep that alive.
Yep.
And what's the benefit to Fort Worth? What's the benefit to the city? That generates revenue. It also bolsters our culture. It protects the thing that Austin lost and every other city that has lost that pool. I mean, Seattle's probably a pretty good example too, I would think. That used to be a huge
absolutely
hub for music, and it's just not anymore because of the exact same systemic issue that we're talking about. So the city has to identify it as a benefit, a net benefit. And maybe it doesn't bring in the same money that the PBR does, or, you know, whatever other example you want to pump out there.
But that's the point, right? Is that like for every Leon Bridges or Abraham Alexander, right? It's like
shout out Leon Bridges, be on the show.
Yeah, come visit. But like for real though, like the reputation and the cachet, if you want to say, like that the city has gotten from Leon Bridges is like is I mean, like, it's invaluable, right?
Exactly.
Like, you can't put a price on that.
Yeah.
So you can turn the city into an incubator for amazing musicians like that. You can put your support behind them. And one way to do that is supporting venues, right? Another way is actually supporting artist development. But to your point of supporting venues, like, it's not that expensive.
No.
That's the thing. Is that, like, production costs for, like, running sound and, like, having someone at the door for, like, cover or tickets, like, you can do that for, like, I don't know, like, max, like, $250 a night, you know? Like, you can, like, I mean, it'd obviously be great if you pay people more, but, you know, like, you can get by with that, right?
If you were to throw, you know, we don't have to get into the numbers right now, but if you were to throw a fraction of the cost to support these musicians.
Yeah, even half of it, right?
You know, maybe you're covering 25% of it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Because that makes the
something to
difference.
help, something
makes
to
the
incentivize these businesses to do that.
Yeah.
And then there should also be massive tax breaks for these businesses that stuck it out through COVID, through all the economic bullshit. You know, Main at Southside shouldn't have gone down. Twilight shouldn't have gone down. The Post, we shouldn't have lost the Post, right?
Yep.
There's so many examples of great local businesses that enhanced Fort Worth culture that disappeared because they didn't get the support that they needed.
Right.
And
they start creating, like, culture within neighborhoods too, right?
Sure,
like,
Race Street could be booming right now.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
If some of those businesses had made it a little, just got a little bit of help.
Right.
And a lot of these business owners are just exhausted because they don't see any help coming. If they had a light, just a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, it'd help them hang on just a little bit longer.
I agree.
And I also understand the fact that you know what, if your business is failing, it is, you know, some of that's your fault. Right? You need to take ownership of that. And I get it, you know, but whenever you have half a dozen businesses closing down that are kind of in the same grouping, same demographic or whatever category, you have to look at it and go, okay, what's
you know,
going on?
I went to a lot of, you know, the kind of meetings, and everyone's very quick to say, well, that's just how it is. You know, we have good times and bad times and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, I hear that. But yeah.
But they're not coming back.
It's weird, yeah, because I'm like, I'm not seeing new venues popping up. You know?
You'll see a new Chili's or a Cheddar's, TGI Fridays, whatever. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how those businesses are doing, but I'm saying, like, large corporate national brands.
Well,
that's what's going to take over.
What happens is the venue shuts down, no one steps in to take its place, real estate gets cheaper, and then corporate chain comes in and they're like, well, yeah, put something here. You know.
Well, another thing that I think that probably the Fort Worth Police Department might chime in on, contact us, 817-988-1292. I think, that's right.
I don't want cops calling me, but
I want the cops calling me. These businesses, whenever they close down, Twilight's a different. Excuse me, shouldn't have said that. Scratch that. Moving on. When these businesses close down, the building sits vacant, and the owner is okay with that because they're going to keep their price set at a certain point because eventually somebody's going to bite on that price. They don't want to undervalue it,
right?
So they keep it at a high price. Anyway, 10 years goes by. The building sits vacant. This is now a hub for crime, vandalism, vagrancy, whatever. So it's not in the city's interest to have these empty spaces.
To have empty buildings.
So let's keep those buildings going. Let's keep those businesses going. Now I'm going on a rant.
If anyone wants to send me $100,000, I will start a venue in Fort Worth. I'm going on the record saying
you're going to need more than that.
Right, well, just to get started.
Just to get started, get the doors open, permits, turn the lights on.
Yeah, I'm talking cash.
For sure.
If I have $100,000, I can get a loan for more.
Yeah. Look, I got a third of what I'm asking for. Come on,
we're already there. We're halfway there.
Court, where can people find you, brother?
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on TikTok sometimes. I'm kind of off my social media game lately because life has been crazy, but I'm trying to get back on it. You can find me at hopefully some local venues. I played Pouring Glory not too long ago, actually.
Any residencies?
No residencies at the moment. Music for money is not something that I have been super focused on, actually. I'm grateful to say that a lot of good opportunities have come my way, but yeah, next big show will be the release show for the first now 2 parts of the album. This will be. So I was going to have the release show for the first part for Volume 1, like last weekend, the weekend before last, and then I got COVID, so we rescheduled that one. That one's now going to be happening in December for the winter solstice. So it'll be like kind of celebrating Volume 1 and Volume 2 coming out.
Nice.
And yeah, that'll be a good time. But that's going to be in Arlington at Dr. Jekyll's Beer Lab, which is one of my favorite spots. Honestly, it's a really cool place.
I need to start checking out Arlington.
Great owners. There's some
Fort Worth Roots is going to be moving into
really
Arlington real soon.
Great venues. We'll come to the show.
Okay.
We'll show you a good time. Yeah. It's a pretty easy space to pack, and great beer. They brew their own, and they've got a great selection, and then they've got like a pretty legit stage and sound setup. Like it's
cool.
It's good, especially for an indoor space.
Well, I stand by this statement. I will never go any further east with Fort Worth Roots than Grand Prairie. That's it.
That's
Everything past that is
Dallas Roots.
That's backcountry.
Honestly. Yeah.
So, but yeah, we want to move into Arlington pretty quick and start talking to folks out there. Fort Worth Roots is meant to be centric to Fort Worth, but we also want to show some love to our surrounding neighbors, and especially in the music community. You know, Denton, Arlington, Weatherford, we're all connected.
Yep.
You know, so yeah, we'll be doing that real quick.
Awesome.
But make sure tag me anytime you want to share anything, and we will blast it. I think I've told you that in the past, but let me clear my throat. Damn it, dude. But I mean it. Just if anytime you're like, hey, Fort Worth Roots, they should share this, tag me, and I'll share it.
Absolutely.
There was something else I wanted to say to you. We have a morning show now.
Yes.
It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Starts at 7 a.m. That's when we record it. If you've ever got something that you want to pump out to the public, just make sure it's in before that, or you can call me during 7 a.m. to 7:20. And we get the episode out by 8 a.m. So if you've got something you need to tell people on a Thursday,
that's good.
Like your show Friday, your show Saturday, call me, call the hotline, and if I don't answer, you can leave a voicemail. If I do, I'll grab the Taz cam and I'll talk to you about it. Or you can call at 7 a.m. and we'll do it on the Roadcaster while I'm recording.
Perfect.
So, and that's open to you, and it's open to anybody else that's got a show going on here in Fort Worth or the surrounding community, Arlington, Denton, Weatherford, all of it.
Love it.
And the other thing is, would you like to be the featured artist at our open mic? We do it every Wednesday at Pouring Glory.
Sure, yeah. Sounds like fun.
Cool. All right. We'll get that offline. I know you got stuff to do. Court, thank you so much for doing this with me.
It was a pleasure.
And we had to reschedule a couple times. Busy people doing busy things, but
getting sick.
I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course.
No more getting sick.
All right, man.
All right, folks. Thank y'all for being here. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. on your favorite streaming service. See ya. All right, Court, thank you so much for being on the Fort Worth Roots podcast, my brother. Got to come out and check. I got to find him, play live somewhere. I feel terrible when I've got an artist in the room and I haven't seen them play live yet, but we got time. Court ain't going anywhere. So we'll check that out. Find him out there in the ether, rocking and rolling around here in Fort Worth. Guys, there's always local musicians playing at places around town. And I would encourage you to get your ass up off that couch and go see these people play live. It's not just for them. It's not just for you. It's the community. And the people that show up to these events are the best. I've got a great group of friends, and whenever I walk in to see a live event, a live show with one of our local musicians, I know that my people are going to be there. So come be part of that. Come be part of our people. Come check out a show. Also, speaking of shows, every Wednesday and Thursday, you can catch me at Pouring Glory. Wednesday night is singer-songwriter night at Pouring Glory with great North Texas musicians doing some picking and grinning. And we have a featured artist every week. So somebody gets up there and plays for the first 30 minutes uninterrupted. And then we have other musicians cycle through and play their music. If you'd like to be one of those musicians, come on out. There's a sign-up roster on the table when you get there. You just put your name down on the paper and then get up on the stage when it's your turn. And for you guys that are just out there looking for something to do, this is a great time to come rub shoulders with some of the best talent in North Texas. And we'd really love to see you out there. We do need you guys hanging out with us. And then Thursday night is karaoke night. It's a little more laid back, a little more free, I guess, free flowing. Come on in, sing a little song. We got auto tuner if you need that. And I don't know this for a fact, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say we got the biggest PA system for karaoke in Fort Worth. Probably. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it sure seems like it. That system that we were using for the festival this Saturday, our little Fort Worth Roots Award show, that's the same system we use for karaoke. So it's overkill. It's overkill. And the neighbors around Pouring Glory, I'm sure they've got their phone in their hand with the police department's non-emergency number ready to dial right at 10 o'clock, because if we don't shut down at 10 o'clock, they can call and complain on us. So we do. We shut it down sharp, 10 o'clock sharp, just so we don't get any complaints. Yeah, Court Hoang, thank you, brother, for being on the show again. Great stories. I'd love to have him back on the show. He's got a bunch of album releases that are coming up over the next several quarters, and I told him, I said, come in here and make this part of your process for album release. But the same is true to all of our musicians out there. I don't know if y'all have heard the big announcement recently, but I am 100% Fort Worth Roots now. This is my day job. So we got time to record with you guys. I know in the past it has been an issue. It's not anymore. So let's get it. If I can't get you in here for a full episode, I can at least get you on the morning show. So one way or another, we're going to get your information out there to the public. Now, I don't want y'all being like, oh, cool, he'll have me on the morning show for a 3-minute bit. I don't have to do the full episode. We still want you in the studio for a full episode. So, and we're cooking up some new ideas too. If you have a venue around town and you would like to see the Fort Worth Roots podcast either do the morning show or our full recordings at your place of business, it doesn't have to be a restaurant. It doesn't even necessarily have a stage. But we do like doing this in front of a live audience if at all possible. But if you'd like us to pop into your business and do some of this magic right there in your place of work, holler at us, 817-988-1292. You can also text that number. Let's get into these sponsors real quick. Flurry Fitness. You guys know, you've heard me talking about these folks. They were at the event. Thank you, Flurry Fitness, for coming out. And we had an award for all of our vendors this year to show our appreciation. And we had Flurry Fitness out there with us as a vendor. So thank you, Flurry Fitness. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Daniel. Whole Flurry Fitness crew, you guys rock. Flurry Fitness can be found across the street from the military base. You've got the Waffle House. They're right behind that Waffle House. It's almost the same parking lot as that Target. This is a high-intensity interval training type workout. You get in there, you do the work, and whenever you get done, you have got the max potential out of your workout time. So put the gloves on, hit the punching bag, and the instructors in there are going to make sure that you're hitting it right, you're doing the drills correctly, and you're working up one hell of a sweat. They also have freestanding weights and a full-size regulation ring, I believe. This place is really cool. And I had to pat Andy on the back because he brought his family down here to Fort Worth to open up Flurry Fitness. And within, I think, 2 years, he's ready to open his second location. People love this place, so go check them out. Flurry Fitness right here in Fort Worth, Texas. The Davis team, you heard about us talking about them in a minute, or earlier. What am I talking about? I'm still recovering from the event. My voice is blown out. I'm confused. I don't know whose pants these are. Anyway, the Davis team. You can go find them at yourdavisteam.com. And my biggest selling point with these guys is that they have helped us sell 2 homes in 2 totally separate markets. And there was a horror story that I like telling about the first agent that I tried to use, who will remain nameless. But whenever I was selling that first house, it's the first house I ever bought, I was getting ready to sell it, and we found an agent that was a friend of a friend of a friend. That house sat on the market for over 100 days. And I'm like, what are we doing wrong? What's the problem? I couldn't really communicate with this agent. They were impossible to get a hold of. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was a bad deal. I got a hold of the Davis team, and they had that thing sold. Without lying to you, I know it was under a month, but I want to say it was like 2 or 3 weeks. And they have it just figured out. You don't have one agent. You have an entire team. I think it's either 12 or 14 full-time real estate agents working on your property, making sure that the open houses are going good, that the information is correct on the MLS and getting pumped out to the public, and making sure that you have a knowledgeable understanding of what's going on with the market so that you're not selling your home for too much or too little. You're getting what you're going to get with the market. It fluctuates, and they know that, and they can keep you on the right heading. So anyway, if you're selling a home, look no further. YourDavisteam.com, and sure, tell them I almost called myself Pouring Glory. Tell them Fort Worth Roots sent you. Galaxy Wilderness Disc Golf. My buddy Joe was out there this weekend, had his basket set up. I didn't get to go down there. I was so busy for this thing, just running sound. We're going to get some more help out there next year. But Joe was out there. He was one of our vendors. Galaxy Wilderness Disc Golf on Facebook is the best way to find them right now. But they will set up a full, it just depends on how big your space is. They can put up 2 baskets, 3 baskets, 20 baskets, whatever. It just depends on the size of your area. But they will set up a disc golf, course. They bring the discs and all the good stuff. And they've even got nighttime disc golf where the rings light up, the discs light up. It's really cool. It's an imaginative way to get your friends, family, whatever, outside, enjoying the outdoors and having fun together. They set it all up, and then when you're done, they break it down, they take it away. It's super easy. That's Galaxy Wilderness Disc Golf. And by the way, folks, when I'm talking about these sponsors, you can go to fortworthroots.com, hit the drop-down menu, and you'll see trusted sponsors. If you are on the mobile app, and we are going to change our website eventually, but if you're on the mobile app, you have to swipe the screen all the way to the left. You're swiping left, you're trying to go to the right of the screen, and the drop-down is at the top right. It's a bit of a clunky thing, but it's what we started with, and we're getting ready to upgrade that hopefully in the year 2025. But anyway, check out all our sponsors there. You can find it. If you can't find it, text me. I'll get you the information. McFly's Pub, 1980s Back to the Future themed pub, right down the street. Also got an award for being a badass sponsor. They've been with us for a very long time. We love McFly's Pub. People travel from all over the world to check this place out. I'm not just saying that. It's true. I met a gentleman that had a full-size Johnny 5 replica. You remember the movie Short Circuit? No disassemble. Beautiful Stephanie. That robot. Anyway, he built one. And, I mean, it was unnerving how good of a job he did building this thing. Anyway, he brought it from England to McFly's just to show it off. This is the kind of attention McFly's Pub is drawing, and if you haven't checked it out, you're missing out. It's right here in your backyard. It is right outside the east gate for the military base. It's right down the street from the studio, and if you type it into your navigation, there's no way you won't find it. McFly's Pub. Make sure and check that out. Amplify 817, our homies at the Fort Worth Public Library. Amplify817.org is an extension of the Fort Worth Public Library, and they are the biggest, best players. It's the best thing happening to Fort Worth music right now on the city side. I don't know that the city does anything else to support local music, but Amplify 817 is a part of the city, and so we got to give Fort Worth a little bit of credit because Amplify 817 is knocking it out of the park. I'm talking so fast my tongue can't keep up. Go there, check it out. What you're going to find is a streaming service, no commercial interruption, and it's all local music. These artists got paid up front. So whenever you're listening to Pandora, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever it is, I want you to feel a little bit guilty because those guys have to rack up tens of thousands of streams before they see any money from it. Amplify 817 paid these artists up front. And we really do need to support Amplify 817 because we'd hate to see that disappear. They're putting on live events just like Fort Worth Roots does, and just a huge force for good in our community. And in my opinion, it is the best way to listen to music. If you're trying to find local music, you're like, man, what's going on around town? Who are these local musicians? This is where you go. Absolutely. Look no further. Amplify817.org. Eaton Data Solutions. Our buddy Richard Eaton works for a business protecting Fortune 500 businesses from data theft. And over the years doing this, he realized that small and medium-sized businesses need the same services. here comes Eaton Data Solutions. They're ready to protect your data, and guess what? It's becoming more and more of a problem at medium and small business levels. What they do is they steal your data, encrypt it, and then they try to sell you a password. They're like, hey, yeah, I heard you've been having some trouble getting into your computer stuff. We're going to sell you this password. It's going to cost $10,000. And most people can't live without that data, so they're going to pay it. Bad news is if you pay it, it's 50-50. They might give you your information, they might not. But if you do give it to them, they're going to be back. Anyway, don't let it happen even once. Call the folks at Eaton Data Solutions so that you can maintain your payroll records, your tax records, all that stuff that you've been working your ass off to maintain. All your contacts for your customers, EatonDataSolutions.com. The Body Scrubbery, our friend Michelle over there at the Body Scrubbery is ready to take care of you. If you're looking for a great gift idea or just a wonderful way to relax, check out thebodyscrubbery.com. They've got all their services listed. They're located over there on Pennsylvania Avenue here in Fort Worth, Texas. And Michelle is just the salt of the earth. She's a wonderful person. And they have a very cool little boutique-y, what do you call that, spa? I don't know. It's dope. You should go check it out. The Body Scrubbery. Pouring Glory. You know about these guys. We were out there this weekend. Great food, wonderful vibes, huge selection of beer on tap, and a great outdoor area for your doggos. They got Dog Park Sundays where it's dedicated for the dogs, but you can bring those dogs in there anytime you want. We love the fur babies at Pouring Glory. I should also mention, if you're on the other side of town at McFly's, they also have a pretty robust outdoor area, and you can bring your dogs there too. Pouring Glory off of South Main, it's Bryan. Bryan is the street that they're on, but it's that South Main area, just a stone's throw away from the new Cicada, Old Main at South Side. That if you're on that side of town, and I know lots of people have dogs over there, that's a great spot for that. And then we're there Wednesdays and Thursdays every week, live music on the patio with our singer-songwriter open mic night, and then karaoke on Thursdays. And then go to Pouring Glory's Instagram because they got events almost every Friday. They're also going to be part of Lost in Sound. I mean, there's always something going on at Pouring Glory. So if you're hungry or you're just looking for something to do, Pouring Glory is the way to go. Woodpost Metalworks. Go to woodpostmetalworks.com and take a look at all the cool stuff they got. They can make backlit LED signs or with or without backlight. We've got one hanging off the front of the Fort Worth Roots podcast studio, and it looks great. If you need something for inside or outside your home, they've got this heavy metal plasma cutting construction. These guys know what they're doing. woodpostmetalworks.com. Houck Walker Originals. Houck Walker Originals is another great place to find creative gift ideas. Go to houckwalker.com. Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck. This is what started it all. We were looking for somebody that met all the criteria that we needed to feel comfortable to start sharing sponsors with our audience. The Roofing Solutions by Darren Houck, they got the ratings. You need somebody to take care of your most valuable investment. You want to make sure that roof is good and secure, whether you're getting ready to sell your home or you're kind of worried about that shingle that looks a little funny up there on your roof line. Give them a call. Also, on our drop-down menu, go to fortworthroots.com, hit that Trusted Sponsors tab, and you'll find roofing solutions information there as well. Boulevard Brew, located right here on River Oaks Boulevard, not too far from the studio. They have everything you need as far as coffee is concerned. I call this place the Mullet because it's business in the front and it's party in the back. Another great space for events, a little bit smaller than the next one I'm going to talk about. Probably great for a get-together of 20 to 30 people. Also have a bar back there. There's the Mullet part, serving up beer and wine in the back. It's a cool little spot. They got live music most Fridays. Check them out on Instagram as Boulevard Brew. Hoppin, you heard me talking about these guys. I'm so excited to be working with them. I really like the owners, and I love the space. Maybe I love the owners and I really like the space. I don't know if did I mix those up? Anyway, go check this place out. The way it works, you get an armband when you walk in the door. They link it to a debit card, and then it's a free-for-all, man. Grab your cup and go to town. They only charge you for what you put in the cup, so they're charging you by the ounce. This is really fun if you want to try out a bunch of different beers. So do that. Do it 1 or 2 ounces at a time. Work your way all the way down the wall. Some crazy person, I can't remember who this was, probably Dustin Snyder, was telling me, why don't you just mix up all your beers? You could do that. It sounds like a terrible idea. I would never do that, but you could. That's an option. They'll charge you accordingly, but the stomach ache is your problem to deal with. All right, that's all the sponsors. Guys, I'd love for you to check out the morning show. It is, if you're listening to this right now, then whatever platform you're on, you can just back out of this episode and take a look. We kept it simple so you could find it. It just has the Fort Worth Roots logo inside the thumbnail for each one of these episodes, and we got them labeled by date. Sometimes we have somebody sitting right next to us. Other times we've just got callers on the line. Today, I looked up and I realized that I forgot to turn on the freaking camera. I'm telling you guys, I'm still recovering from that event Saturday. It was madness, and maybe I'll get a chance to tell you that story some other time, but we got to get out of here. It was wild. The aftermath of trying to get away from the event was terrible. So I'm still recovering from that, forgetting things, like turning on the camera. But the episode is, in my opinion, so far, the best morning show episode we've done, and that's thanks to Sam Esquivel, Cody Halford, who called in and left us a message. Cody just wanted to call and say hi. Sam actually did an entire, I think a 3-part What's Happening in Fort Worth news report, and he kept it tight and concise. I think it was under 2 minutes. You guys can do that too. If you want to be part of the show, you can do that. And if you add value to the show, I'll let you promote whatever you want. So if you have a interesting story that you think should be on the Fort Worth Roots podcast, you can email it to me. You just take your phone. Everybody's phone has this. Your little recording device. Make the recording. Read the report. And then say, this is Joe Smith from XYZ Business. You can find us online at blah, blah, blah. Good day. And then send it to me, and I'll play it on the show. As long as it adds some value to the show, I'll let you get away with some free advertisement. But, yeah, that's what we're all about here on the morning show. This is not here yet. We're not on the morning show. We're on the regular show. Get it right, Andrew. Okay, well, that's what we're all about on the morning show, is just connecting the community. You can really just say whatever you want. And as long as I think it's somewhat inside parameters, we'll play it on the show. We got a lot of exciting details to unwrap. I just announced that we purchased Black Thunder. If you remember Alfie McCoy from 97.1, the Eagle on the Russ Martin show, Alfie McCoy had a helicopter called Black Thunder. Well, we bought that SOB, and we've repainted it, and we're currently working on getting the airworthiness certificate. So we've got mechanics working tirelessly on it day and night. And honestly, I'm not going to do it because it doesn't make any sense unless we do the full bit. But we're going to be calling out traffic reports, live traffic reports from the new Sky Viper. We're currently trying to find somebody to sit shotgun with our pilot. As soon as we get those two things figured out, we're going to have a helicopter. Come on. You've always wanted a helicopter on the show, right? Well, you're getting it anyway. Cool. All right. Lots of cool stuff coming. Lots more activities and fun things. We don't have the music series until next March. But this is not a time for me to take a break. We're going to be doing other activities. We're going to be getting into other people's events and visiting other places. So don't think that the party's over till March. It's just going to be different until we get to March. So, all right, guys. Thank y'all so much, and I appreciate you. I can't do this without you guys. I can't do this without your support. And you guys are just consistently showing up for me. Thank you so much. Find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook as, what's the name of the show? That's right, Fort Worth Roots. That's enough out of me. Thank y'all for being here. We will see you next week. Peace.